بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. So alhamdulillah, I am now 23 and I memorized the Quran, alhamdulillah, finished memorizing the Quran at the age of 10. I memorized at Al-Huda school, College Park, and I started at the age of 8 in full-time hifz and finished at 10. But the journey, alhamdulillah, started way before that, and the work involved after that was also much greater than just that 2-year period. So alhamdulillah, I started memorizing. Let's back up. My father is Egyptian, born in Egypt, and he's lived the majority of his life here in the US. And my mother is originally Korean. So she was born in Missouri to Korean immigrants. My grandparents are Korean, North and South. And alhamdulillah, she is a revert. She reverted when she was around 22 years old. Alhamdulillah. And my father was very adamant on speaking the Arabic language. My mother doesn't speak Arabic. She understands. She can get around, but she does not speak fluently. My father, when I was around 3 to 4 years old, I would try to speak to him in English, and he wouldn't notice me. So I thought to myself, I said, my dad doesn't know English. He just doesn't know English. So he would force me, I was forced to communicate with my dad in Arabic. And it came to the point where I would get frustrated because I don't know Arabic. I'm trying to learn at 3, 4 years old, 5, however old. And English just isn't working. He wouldn't turn his head. It was only Arabic. So alhamdulillah, that was the upbringing. Until this day, my dad does not allow my siblings and I to speak in anything other than Arabic. I get in trouble. I'm 23 years old, and I get in trouble if I speak with anyone in the house other than my mother in Arabic. I'm speaking Arabic. Alhamdulillah.
Do you know Korean too?
I don't speak Korean. I would love to speak Korean. Long time. Maybe one day, inshallah. So, alhamdulillah, Arabic was the basis. Only Arabic in the house. If I'm not speaking to my mother, then it's only Arabic. And then we started writing. I would write you have the books that you fill in the dotted lines of the letters in Arabic, right? And then the book that we all probably practice. Alif, until Alif, Alif, all that, until the end of the book. I finished that book, and then I would read to my dad in a line a day, and then an ayah a day. And I remember this ayah a day, because there was one day, I would be free after I read my one ayah to my dad, I'd be free for the rest of the day. And I remember one day came, and it was Surah Taha, one ayah, and I'm done. Right? So I remember being excited to read my ayah, and I read more than Taha. But alhamdulillah, I remember these times because it progressed from a line to an ayah, to a page of Mus'haf al-Tahajjud, the big 2.5 pages. And then I started memorizing at around the age of maybe 6. I would start memorizing, finished Juz' Amma Tabarak. I had around 5 ijza done before I entered the full-time hifz al-Huda, which was 8 years old. During this time, I was in public school. So I was in public school until 3rd grade. During 3rd grade, my father asked if I wanted to leave school and go to full-time hifz. I agreed, I said yes. I got pulled out of public school, and I had to continue obviously my secular education, so I would do homeschooling with hifz school. I went to full-time hifz from 8 to 10, so I came back to school in 6th grade. Now between the time of hifz, obviously memorizing it's not easy. But that's actually, I was always told that the beginning starts when you finish. The beginning starts when you finish memorizing the Quran. And I would always be confused, perplexed by this statement. What does that mean? So all this agony and pain and crying from 8 to 10 years old is the easy part? It's true. It really is the easy part. The hard part comes after, from the review. The review is the most important part that a lot of Hufal neglect. So obviously, a lot of them, I would cry during memorization. I would have to recite to my dad all the time, which was not the fun part. I would get in trouble if I had a certain amount of mistakes. Alhamdulillah, my father was very, very careful and he would prioritize the Quran over anything. There were times when I was in school, my dad wouldn't know what grade I was in. No idea what grade I'm in, 5th, 6th, 4th, 12th, he doesn't know. But he knows that in just just 13, I have 4 mistakes. You ask him what juz, he knows how many mistakes I have. You ask him what grade I'm in, he doesn't know. And that's the difference in priority. And alhamdulillah, this was established obviously by my parents. I go to 6th grade, after I finished my Quran, alhamdulillah. Secondary school became extremely easy, like a joke. I would finish my work easily, quickly. Within a few weeks, I was passing I was above grade, 2 grades above in the workload and all that. And a lot of people ask, how does secular education work after you finish the Quran? It becomes very, very easy. It becomes, it's nothing compared to, obviously, memorizing the book of Allah. Finish 6th grade, 7th grade, I leave again for 8th grade to prep for a Quran competition in Dubai, in Malat. Alhamdulillah, I go, representing the United States. I placed, alhamdulillah, second in the competition at the age of 13. The age cap is 25. And that competition brings the #1 winners from every national competition to Dubai. So first place in Saudi, first place in India, first place Bangladesh, first place the US. All of those first places end up meeting in Dubai for a competition. Alhamdulillah, at 13, I placed second, which was at the time the highest place for the US.
Takbir. Takbir.
And then after that, I went back to high school, finished high school. Competitions, obviously, in between those years. And finished high school, ended up going to college, alhamdulillah, just graduated. And now I'm a man of Qatar. Alhamdulillah. Now, the difficult part of this whole story, the biggest obstacle was the review. Until now, I review. Alhamdulillah, I have to review every single day. It's not an option. Now, in Surah Al-Furqan, وقال الرسول يا ربي إن قومي اتخذوا هذا القرآن محجورا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say وقال الرسول يا رب إن قومي غفلوا عن القرآن. Right? إن قومي اتخذوا. So they did take this Quran, but اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا. So they took this Quran, they took it, and they left it behind. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to not make us Allahumma. So the biggest challenge is to prioritize the Quran. A lot of times now, we make the Quran our leftover time, right? So in our day, I know I have to go to work, I know I have to eat lunch, I know I have to eat dinner, I have to do X, Y, Z. And then when I have time, inshallah, at the end of the day, I will make sure that I will read the Quran. That does not happen. It cannot happen. Your day has to be the same way you know you have your 9 to 5, you know you eat lunch at 1. The same way you know all these things, Quran has to take priority. You have to give yourself a set time for Quran. For example, even if it's 5 minutes, give yourself a set time during your day to just for Quran. Leave your phone alone, leave your laptop, sit with the Quran for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It will change your life drastically. Same thing with your kids. When we're surprised that our kids don't have a connection with the Quran, they don't want to read the Quran. It's probably because the parents also are the same way. You can't expect your children to want the Quran if you yourself don't touch the Quran at all. Or when they do see you touching the Quran, it's once every week, once every 2 weeks. We have to prioritize the Quran. Have to. The same way we know that if we go to work, our bank account goes up. We go to work because we know we have 100% certainty that when we go to work, our bank account goes up, right? We are rewarded when we go to work. In the Quran, we know that every letter is 10 hasanat, right? We know this is hadith. Every letter is 10 hasanat, and the hasanat is Allah. So it might $10 is the minimum if you think about it. And the hasanat, let's make it $1. 10 hasanat is 10. So $10 in your bank account for every letter you read the Quran. If you physically were to see your bank account go up when you read the Quran, would we neglect the Quran the way we do? Or would we sit on the Quran 24/7, seeing that every letter is 10 hasanat? Or are we not convinced enough? Do we not believe enough that each letter is 10 hasanat? So inshallah, my advice to myself and everyone else is to set a time. You have to set a time. You must set a time for the Quran, being 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, inshallah, in your day. That does not change. You have to, whatever it is, everything has to be dropped. Phone dropped, kids dropped, food dropped, for this window, for the Quran, inshallah.
More harsh on you than the beginning.
So the role of my father, the role of my father and mother. All of this, alhamdulillah, anything that I have achieved goes back to my father and mother. Without a doubt, without a doubt. No child is going to tell you that they want to memorize the Quran right now at the age of 7 or 8. No child's going to want to go to the Hifz program. I remember there was one time, actually I don't remember, I was really, really young. 3 or 4 years old, and I had to go to Quran class, and I was crying, I didn't want to go, I didn't want to memorize, whatever. So my mother takes me, she grabs me, and says, Hamzah, yes. Would Hamzah cry like this to go to Quran class? I said, no. She said, then why are you crying? I said, right? And I was forced to take the class, and that was it. So the rahmah, the mercy from our parents isn't to see them crying and to take them home. It's to make them achieve these things in Quran. That's my mother's story, and she helped me through the homeschooling. She was born and raised here, so she's more in tune with the secular, homeschooling, public school, all those things. My father's role, a lot more deen oriented, Quran oriented, and every day from my house to Al-Huda was about 45 minutes, and he'll be the one to take me usually from Al-Huda from my house to Al-Huda every single day. So a 45-minute commute, just so I can go to this full-time Hifz program. During this car ride was recitation, only recitation, and I had to recite the newly memorized. And for those that are memorizing, or who have memorized, they know that the newly memorized is the hardest portion. So during this car ride, I recite what I memorized, and if it's bad, I'm in trouble. Big trouble. I can't tell you the amount of times I showed up to school crying. So I showed up to school at 7:15, already crying. That's the beginning of the day. And alhamdulillah, that was the case. Because during the day I had classmates that would be in class memorizing for their daily portion. So we would recite the daily portion at the end of the day. They would memorize in class. And I was always like, man, why can't I memorize in class? Why can't I be the one to, relax, go play, whatever, and then memorize? And now, unfortunately, some of the people that I know personally have forgotten the Quran or portions of the Quran. So my father was very adamant on review and prioritizing. Everything is dropped and nothing comes before Quran. One day I had a soccer game. I used to be very much into soccer, traveling to different states, tournaments, and wherever. I traveled to the Netherlands for soccer. I mean, it was time consuming. And so one day I had a game at around 8 or 9 a.m. and I told my dad I had a game. And he said, okay, that's fine. You're not going to go if you don't finish your 5 hours. And I was like, wait, so you want me to finish 5 ajza before I go to my game at 9 a.m.? And he said, yeah, and if you don't, you're not going. So I sat down, and I recited 5 ajza, which is 100 pages. I sat down, and I recited to him 100 pages before 9 a.m. And that's how his mind, till now, goes. For example, I had a competition just recently in Croatia, alhamdulillah, and I was in Qatar. That's 2-3 months ago. And my dad came from the US, he came to Qatar. He sat with me for 3 days. I finished the Quran to him in 3 days, and he left. He came to me to listen to me and left. That sacrifice I had never heard of before. And that, you could say crazy, I've never seen before. And it's only for the Quran. He doesn't care about anything else. He left the United States, flew to Qatar, sat with me for 3 days and left. Just so I can recite the Quran to him. Alhamdulillah, I'm very grateful for that. And I don't know how I plan on implementing that, inshallah, when I do have children, because he is truly crazy in a good way. I mean, and the thing is, we think that's strange. In our generation, in our time now, we think that's very strange. The Sahaba and the Salaf, Abu Sufyan al-Thawri, alayhi rahmatullah, used to, during the day, sleep with his feet on a chair so that the blood could return to his head from Qiyam. He would sleep with his feet on a chair for his blood to return to his head because he would stay in Qiyam for too long. So for me to finish the Quran on my dad in 3 days, now it seems crazy. But that's just because our current state of our standard is pretty low. So alhamdulillah, his priority till now is only Quran, Salah, and Amal. And alhamdulillah, the worldly side of things will always come to you with Quran. من كان يريد ثواب الدنيا, if you want ثواب الدنيا, فعند الله ثواب الدنيا والآخرة. If you want this world, then Allah has the khaza'in of this world and the next.
جزاك الله خير حمزة. تكبير.
حفظ, yeah. So I started, that's a good question. I started Hafs, obviously started from, Hafs is from the beginning. Hafs is the one riwayah I started from 3 or 4 years old. And then I started Syu'bah an Asim, which is actually the first rawi of Asim. It's Syu'bah then Hafs, but we recite Hafs. So Syu'bah started when I was 14. And I started Syu'bah only after I had solidified Hafs 100%. Yani the khatma of Hafs had to be 0 mistakes multiple times before I went into qira'at, which is Syu'bah. Because if you don't have the first riwayah down or Hafs solidified, qira'at will be extremely confusing. It's already confusing, but with more confusion if you don't have the first riwayah completely perfected. No. Good question. So the pace of review, it differs obviously if I'm reciting 30 juz, 5 ajza, 15 or 1. But usually, I asked Sheikh al-Masarawi the same question. Sheikh al-Masarawi said he reviews 5 ajza a day. Till today. Sheikh al-Masarawi is old, mashallah. Until today he reviews 5 ajza. And his review he will not alter the ahkam of tajweed. He will not change the ahkam of tajweed. It'll be faster, but ahkam of tajweed will always be there. For example, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله لا يستحي أن يضرب مثلا ما بعوضة فما فوقها فأما الذين آمنوا فيعلمون أنه الحق من ربهم وأما الذين كفروا فيقولون ماذا أراد الله بهذا مثلا يضل به كثيرا ويهدي به كثيرا وما يضل به إلا الفاسقين. So the ahkam are still there, but it's just faster. Good question, mashallah. Just between 20 to 28 minutes, almost. Yeah. Depends the juz. Yeah, of course. Yeah. وعليكم السلام. Oh, good question. So I started in public school, first grade, second grade, third grade, left public school, went to Al-Huda, Hifz school. Went from third grade to sixth grade, was homeschooled, and then I returned to public school in sixth grade, and then I went back to homeschool in eighth grade, and then I went back to high school, public high school, and I finished high school, so 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and then obviously college is college. Alhamdulillah.
You know how we talk about the teenager years, in high school. How did memorizing Quran help you in your life? You know,
Sure.
all the challenges that we both talk about significantly.
Sure. Okay. So the question is, this is I think the most common question. How do you get the teenage years with the difficulty and the fitan and high school and all that? How did the Quran help you navigate through that? So, first of all, Quran you have to review daily. You have to review daily. So every day there's a certain time that I have to go back home and recite to my dad for. And during that time is based on when my dad is available. So for example, I have friends that want to do something at 7. I can't confirm that with them because if my dad wants me home, then I have to be home. If they're going out to do something after Isha, for example, I have to explain to my dad I want to go do whatever after Isha. No, you're going to stay home and recite. He'll say, for example, he would say, so you have time to go out with these people and do whatever at night, but you can't recite? So obviously the answer is I have to recite. Now when it comes to the meaning of the Quran and the actual spiritual part of the Quran, there are ayat, you feel too guilty to do certain things because you've memorized the Quran. So there are times that will come where you want to do something, but the Quran, you have ayat in the Quran that go completely against that, and you feel too guilty to fall into that. You're more conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you do have the Quran memorized. That's without a doubt. You're more conscious. And so that's from one side. And again, having a parent that prioritizes the Quran helps with the whole scheduling around your friend's time. So I would want to do something. I'd want to go to play soccer. I'd want to go go eat. If my dad wants me home to recite or he tells me to be home just to be home, it's what my dad says, and usually it's to recite. Usually. Did that answer your question?
Yes, but in a sense is, how in high school, and you want to do something, right? And sometimes you said, I'm not going to do it because of my dad, or because my conscience says I should not do this. The temptation is there, but how did memorizing Quran help you navigate this, or do you think it did help? Besides your dad.
Sure. So being conscious of the meaning of the Quran. Being conscious of the meaning of the Quran helps you navigate through certain things. And you'd have, there are clear ayat, especially in the time that we're in now. There are certain difficulties that we have in our communities, especially for the youth. In the Quran there are direct ayat. The only way to derive that is to understand. Right? The only way to derive these ayat is to understand what you're reciting. The more you recite, the more you'll understand. And that understanding continues until we die. So the more you have a relationship, the more you recite the Quran as a teenager, I would recite often as a teenager, the more you are conscious because of the meaning. So I would go to school after reciting 3 ajza to my dad, for example, after Salat al-Fajr. 3 ajza, and then I go to school. Going to school having recited 3 ajza, you're fresh off of Quran, right? Or I have between the end of school and a soccer game, 2 hours. I'll recite. I have to recite to my Sheikh. You go to your game, fresh off of reciting. So the Quran always had a timeline in my day between certain things, and you'd feel too embarrassed to do those things, those temptations, coming off of that Quran. Too embarrassed. You know, you feel way too guilty to go into something that you know is wrong after just reciting 3 ajza to my Sheikh, for example. So it had a barrier. There was a barrier between those things because there was a meeting with the Quran between whatever that was. Seeking knowledge is the Quran. That's how you balance. There's no such thing as balance. People say, how do you balance your life with secular and Quran? There's no balance. That's why it doesn't work. You can't. They say if you give the Quran all of you, it'll give it some of you. So to balance Islamic knowledge and Quran, there's no such thing. Quran is the Islamic knowledge, and everything else is derived from that. So if you want Islamic knowledge, you solidify the Quran. You don't balance the two. The Quran, the knowledge, the Islamic knowledge that you want is the Quran. So you stick on that, you perfect it. Once you perfect it, you can add on to it. It depends on your ability. Depends on what you are geared towards. And if you memorize more by listening, listen more. If you are better at reading, if you enjoy reading more and you memorize faster by reading the translation, do it. But yeah, of course. But you have to, in order to memorize, you have to memorize off of the basis of an accurate reading. So solidify reading first. You can't memorize and read incorrectly, because then you'll memorize incorrectly. So perfect your reading, and then you can add on. In Al-Huda, they make you read the Quran 10 times before you start memorizing. Read the Quran to the Sheikh 10 times, and then you start memorizing. And that's the basis. Assalamu alaikum. No, yeah.
Learn to build the habit like every day.
How to prioritize? How do you prioritize the Quran in your day? For me personally, the time that I have, my days, for example, I'm busy all day. Usually, you won't be busy between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. Usually, right? If that's the time that you have, you're gonna have to wake up and sit on the Quran for half an hour, for example. 4 a.m. Yeah, Yes, look, it's a sacrifice. Anything you want to sacrifice. The same way you don't sleep to be a doctor and you're so invested on becoming a doctor, it's the same way that you're going to have to be with the Quran. Or anything that you really want, if you're going to do it properly, it's going to take sacrifice. So the Quran, for example, with Sheikh Ukasha, I finished my ijazah on him in Qalun, reciting at 4 a.m. I would recite from 4 to 5 and then go to Fajr. Because that's the only time he had and the only time that I had. So it's going to be tiring. You're going to wake up, you're going to be exhausted, and you're going to have to sacrifice and prioritize it. You're just going to have to force yourself to do it.
He was asking about
I'd like to just add one point to the motivation. Motivation is great. We all need motivation, but motivation only lasts so long. Everyone has motivation for a short amount of time or an extended amount of time, and eventually it'll fade away. Very few people have motivation to go to work every single day. At some point, you just have to discipline yourself and do it. So yes, motivation, you have to gear your day around certain things, but at some point, it's going to become a push, where you're going to have to push yourself through the discipline in order to actually achieve what you want. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والبدن جعلناها لكم من شعائر الله لكم فيها خير فاذكروا اسم الله عليها صواف فإذا وجبت جنوبها فكلوا منها وأطعموا القانع والمعتر كذلك سخرناها لكم لعلكم تشكرون لن ينال الله لحومها ولا دماؤها ولكن يناله التقوى منكم كذلك سخرها لكم لتكبروا الله على ما هداكم وبشر المحسنين إن الله يدافع عن الذين آمنوا إن الله لا يحب كل خوان كفور أذن للذين يقاتلون بأنهم ظلموا وإن الله على نصرهم لقدير الذين أخرجوا من ديارهم بغير حق إلا أن يقولوا ربنا الله ولولا دفع الله الناس بعضهم ببعض لهدمت صوامع وبيع وصلوات ومساجد يذكر فيها اسم الله كثيرا ولينصرن الله من ينصره إن الله لقوي عزيز الذين إن مكناهم في الأرض أقاموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة وأمروا بالمعروف ونهوا عن المنكر ولله عاقبة الأمور صدق الله العظيم.